Last week we got started with device groups in Tasmota. Let's take it a step further and do all the things and control all the things. So last week we did just one light switch and one smart bulb. Well, what else can we do? And if you've already gone through and gone a step further, hey, kudos to you, but I guarantee you'll probably still learn something in this one because we're gonna take it a step further and go into doing things with multiple light bulbs. We'll do multiple switches, dimming, do all kinds of things and show you how to even take a switch with 3 buttons and maybe have the top switch turn on one light and then the bottom switch may turn on a lamp across the room, and then say the third switch you could do whatever else to say, hey, toggle some different colors, really whatever you want to set your mind to with all the different business rules. It's just totally up to you, and that's the beauty of open source, of not being told what you have to do with the product that you paid for. Now, some of the things we're going to do in this video do require some electrical digging into your boxes and changing switches and everything. So if you're not comfortable with that, you may want to get some drunk friend, no, not a drunk one, a good friend that knows what he's doing and can help you change out different light switches and whatnot, and can maybe help with some of the diagrams that we're going to show. One I like to do is a 3-way dimming situation with smart bulbs. And that's kind of what I showed in the intro. In the intro, I'm using a Lenkind switch. This is not a dimmer. There's the down, which has a button, and there's the up that has the button. It's a cool thing inside Tasmota that we can actually see and capture both up and down events. So that's just like a dimmer. So as I showed, I can turn it off and turn it on. I can hold and change the dimming, which through device groups changes the dimming of the light bulbs. And you may not have noticed it, but you may roll back. But you'll notice if you go look, when I do change the dimming, the LED that's through this little hole also changes the dimming rate as well. Now, the beauty of this particular light switch, it has an air gap, because what's required that you're able to kill the power to the light bulbs so you can safely change them. I know what you're probably thinking, well, it's just unscrewing a light bulb and that's dumb. Well, you kind of think about it, if you're unscrewing the light bulb, now you have exposed electrical and someone could get shocked. So you have a electrical wire that say comes from the breaker box, just like we showed, that it's going to be the power that feeds the circuit. And there's a bunch of different situations with 3-way switches. I'm going to cover the main one that I see in my area, but of course everyone's going to be different. So do go check, and I'll leave some links down below for some of the different diagrams that are for 3-way light switches. Now, usually the power will come in and hit the first switch. And then there'll be a wire in the middle, and it has that extra traveler. And really, it's not that difficult to wrap your mind once you see how a 3-way is wired. But that's not really what this video is about, because we're kind of sidestepping all that. We're not using 3-way stuff, but we're making it act like 3-way. So there's a second switch, and then lastly, there's a line that goes from here, I still got more crap in the way, to the light bulb. The massively looking light bulb, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this light switch, and now you've broken the chain, and then we're going to add the Linkind light switch. Now, of course, you could do this with whatever light switch you want. You could do it with a Shelly. I know I got a lot of questions. Hey, can I do this with a Shelly 2.5, a Shelly 1? Absolutely. That's the same really, whether it be a smart plug or smart switch. I mean, think about it. They've all got a button. You know, it's just a different button, and it's in a different package. And if you have a Shelly 1 in the wall behind a dumb switch, you just have a smart switch. Basically, you got a relay and then a button or a switch. So they're all going to be the same, so you can apply the same concepts using tons of different products. The basis needs to be, well, during this video, that they all have Tasmota. And we'll get to next, we'll show you how to mix up Tasmota and do some Zigbee stuff. Now, you'll replace this switch with the Linkind one or whatever you want to use, but I'm going with this one so everybody doesn't roast me down in the comments about the code, but hey, you're welcome to. YouTube likes that. So if you pull this little slot out, what actually happens is now it's killed the power to this switch. So that would satisfy that thing of, hey, if we pull this switch out, now it kills power where I can safely change the light bulbs. Well, when I push it back in, it would power things back up. So now in the three-way situation, we need to remove this light switch. Now, one thing I do get a question of is, hey, can I do this with some dimmers and have it actually hooked up and bypass the load where it's just like you showed last week where it still uses the relay inside? Don't. If you have any care in the world about your smart bulbs, that there's not that many options out there at this time to get some Tasmota smart bulbs, which some of them we did cover. If you want to go back and look at that, there are some pre-flashed options out there. Of course, we'll leave all the links down below. If you care about those bulbs, and sometimes you can't get them anymore, don't put them behind a dimmer, because a lot of the dimmers automatically inside have a ramp up and a ramp down. So even if you say, hey, I'm gonna put something in there that forces them from 0 to 100% all the time, you can't get rid of that ramp up or ramp down. And it will over time potentially kill the power supply in your smart bulb, corrupt the flash, whatever it may be. It's just, you know, a bad day. Don't do it. So how do you exactly do that? I want a dimmer like you showed in the intro. This is just a little Tuya dimmer. This is one of the Treat Life ones, a little touch dimmer, typical deal, right? You can bring it into Tasmota. You need to power the switch with the line, which is the black. And yeah, I know in some other countries there's different color codes. I think they use the blue and the brown. So you do have the line, which is referred to the hot, and then you have the neutral. Then you would have the red, which is the, for simplicity's sake, the output, which a lot of people refer to as the load. And you probably see them labeled as that on the back. And the load is basically what the bulb would be attached to. Well, what we're going to do here is actually, we're not going to connect anything to the red wire. We'll actually cap off the red wire, and I'm just going to, for this one's sakes, I'm going to use a little Wago and just put nothing in it. So then there's not going to short itself out inside the box. Now what would happen is you would power up the line that goes to the smart bulb with the same power that feeds the light switch. So in essence, the light switch is doing nothing. It's not switching anything, it's not dimming anything, etc. And the same exact thing happens with this one. So what happens is the power comes in, hits this switch, and just passes through, goes to this dimmer, passes through, and goes to the smart bulb. So that all this is powered at all the time. But of course, if you needed to go over there and say, hey, I got to do this, you could come over here and pop the air gap switch, and that would kill everything down the line. Now, of course, if you didn't have this type of switch, you may have to do something else if you have that requirement. But hey, if you don't, then you could just roll around and do, say, another dimmer if you wanted to. If you wanted to put two dimmers, a dimmer on each side. But remember, don't go on the actual load wire. This one's actually the brown wire on this one. And yes, You're probably wondering, can I mix and match stuff? Absolutely. As long as it's running Tasmota and this little setup, yeah, you can mix and match stuff and the device groups will just work. It doesn't care about the brand or whatever it may be. And also it doesn't matter about how many different smart bulbs you're gonna do, because exactly looking in the intro, I did use 3 smart bulbs. Now you may be saying, well, I rent and I can't change all these switches and everything out, and this just isn't for me, right? And well, absolutely it can be. You can still change out light bulbs typically, but you can't change those switches out. There's tons of different options out there where you can do little Zigbee remotes that are battery powered, and some of them actually go on top of the light switch, and some just go on the side of the light switch. But it still allows for that button control right there at the light switch like you've always known. Well, we're going to do another video, so do make sure you're subscribed and hit the bell icon, because it's going to be a little bit longer past this one. This one's going to run too long as it is already probably. But we'll do one where we can do straight from a Zigbee button straight over to some Tasmota bulbs, or vice versa. Just depends on, there's all kinds of situations that you can do, because as well as there's an issue, sometimes you can't get Tasmota bulbs, but it's super easy to get Zigbee bulbs, so we want to do it that way as well. So definitely stay tuned for that. So it is much easier to show you having this in Home Assistant. You can see the issue here. Now, based off the same setting we had before, with the setup, we can turn off the switch, turn on the bulb, and well, you can see our second bulb is not in the device group. So how do we add a second one in there? It's really that simple. Is you need to go set that same exact dev group name. If you don't remember, because of course I forgot, yep, it's just test board. We'll copy that, jump into the second bulb, and then we'll do test board as well. Wait for it to reboot, and then make sure you turn on dev groups, which is set option 85 space 1. It's going to reboot again, and it will join the device group. And now we'll look in here, and if we do turn off the switch, it does turn both bulbs on and off. I had someone ask, well, hey, are you editing the video out? Is it really that fast? Yes, absolutely. I know sometimes I do stutter in different times and have to edit that out, but I did want to continue to talk and show you as I push the button here, so I'm not editing out. As I push the button, it is really that stupid fast. Now, one issue I have is, what if I have some automated lighting, where at night I walk in the room, I just want one bulb at 10%. So if I send over 10% to one bulb using an automation of some sort, it would turn both bulbs on. I don't want that. So I'll show you how to fix that, but then I'll show you a little side issue that creates. So remember that dev group share? So of course, let's look at the test switch. It's going to send everything out as well as going to take everything in. That's that FFFF. So if I go to the test bulb, it's going to have the same thing. I don't want to send all the status changes out, so I'll do the -1 to accept everything in, but 0 out. And you'll see I'm going to do that as well to the other bulb. Of course, I'm going to push the button. They all turn on and off. Good deal. Well, I want to turn one bulb off. And there we go. I can turn one bulb off. And of course, I can even come and turn the brightness up on just one bulb, and it does not share. And of course, if I come in here and push the button, it will turn them off. And then if I push it, they both turn back on, because the switch sends everything out and they listen to everything. Now, one issue you'll have is, say for instance, I turn off both bulbs using either Home Assistant or say your voice assistant or whatever. You'll notice the switch still thinks everything is on because it's on, right? So if you walk in the room, you push the button, well, nothing turns on because you just turned the switch off. It sent out the off command, but the bulb said, whatever, we're already off. Well, now when you push it again, they all turn back on and sync up. So that's not necessarily a massive problem, but it's just something to keep in mind if you do this. I do like to use where the bulbs don't stay synced if I change one of the bulbs itself, because in a lot of cases I like to change just one bulb, say the color of that one bulb or the brightness of that one bulb, and I don't want it to go across all the bulbs. So in this example, we're going to have the smart switch as the first in line for getting power, and then we're going to have a dimmer that then of course powers the two light bulbs. Now of course the dimmer load is bypassed because I don't want it actually dimming these two smart bulbs. That would be bad. So in Home Assistant, we got everything in here. It's really easy to kind of show you. Of course, for this, we really don't need Home Assistant. But so we got both bulbs. You can see both of them do light up. But here's the issue, of course, if we turn on the smart switch, the bulbs don't turn on, and the dimmer, when we turn that one on, doesn't come on either. So we're going to go and fix this where we can all sync up. And it's pretty much going to be the same we showed, but it's going to show them kind of run through it really quick. But first, there's one issue I want to fix with this. This is showing as a switch. I need to show this as a light. And there's a set option for that. If you go into the console of the smart switch and you do set option 30 space 1, that's going to turn that one on, and that sets it as an actual light instead of a switch. And you may say, well, what difference does that make? Well, especially when you're doing stuff with different domains, like with voice assistants and whatnot, you want this to be in the right domain in Home Assistant. So let's go jump through and we'll turn on device groups and we'll set the dev group names. We're just using the same one as before, test board. And we'll run through this real quick. Dev group name. We'll paste that into that one. And then we have the dimmer. We'll turn on the set options on both of them. Wait for them all to reboot. So the dimmer is doing in and out of everything, and the switch by default should be doing the same. And we'll push the button on the smart switch, and you can see everything is in sync. No matter which button I do push on this smart switch, it does have an up and down, but the way I have it set up is just to toggle no matter which button is pushed on it. And then we should be able to toggle the dimmer, and toggles everything just perfectly. Now let's try the dimming. You can see it's pretty smooth. It's just a little touch dimmer by Treat Life or Mo's. There's several different ones. Of course, you could do this with whatever dimmer, and you can see it is pretty quick and allows you to do a dimming control with device groups. And you could do 2 of these dimmers if you like, and that would be 3-way dimming. Of course, if you had a 4-way or whatever, that way you could just do whatever dimmers. And of course, they don't even have to be in the room. You could put them somewhere else to control them if you'd like. So in this situation, I want to do something really cool. So of course, this is my little test board, so you kind of have to use your imagination. We're only using one smart switch. Well, you say we've already done that, Travis. Well, no. This smart switch, I know it may be hard to see since it's all white, actually has 3 buttons. And there's 3 relays inside of here. And we're actually going to use the 3 relays to tie to bulb 1, bulb 2, and then this black little GU10 lamp I have here. So we'll use these buttons to control these 3 lights. So if you could imagine in a room, you had 3 different, you had to say an overhead light, and then you had a lamp on one side, then a lamp on another side. You could control all of those across the room with this single button. Now, of course, the power is not connected to 2 or 3 since they're getting power from other sides of the room. So you can see I have everything set up here. Now, I just have these set up as just switches for now. Of course, you'd want to use them as lights. Probably a good idea to fix them. But for now, we can even push the buttons. And you can see they turn on the 3 different relays. Now, nothing is linked up with that one at all. And same thing, I can turn on the lamp here. And you can see it lights up there on the desk. And, of course, these are still linked together. Now, of course, the bulbs, remember we did that share where they're not sending out. So they can control separately, but they're currently in one device group. But we're going to change all of that because we're going to use multi-device groups. You say, whoa, multi-device groups. Remember, there's 4 slots. So you can apply this to whatever product and different things, but we're only going to use 3 of those. So of course, if you had a 4-button switch, you could do something really cool with another device. So we're jumping into the console on the 3-button switch. We're looking at the dev group names. So there's none right now. And of course, set option 85 is off. But I want to set 3 dev group names. So we're going to do dev group name test board, and of course it's going to reboot each time, so we'll wait, and then we'll do dev group name 2 as test board 2, and then we'll do dev group name 3 as test board 3, just to make sure we got everything right. Dev group name 1, dev group name 2, and 3, we're good to go. Now, we don't have the set option 85 turned on, so we'll go ahead and turn that one on. That will make it turn on device groups, and it's going to reboot and join the device group. Now, the first bulb, we're going to set it as, make sure it's set as dev group name 1's test board. The second bulb is going to get dev group name of 2, but it's going to be in slot 1 because there's only one relay or device that's controllable on a light bulb, of course. So we're going to leave it dev group name 1, but we're going to call it test board 2 because this bulb is going to join the group that we're going to do for the second relay or the second button. Now we're going to go into the GU10 lamp. We're going to set dev group name 1 as test board 3. And we'll make sure and turn on the device groups because we haven't been using this lamp yet. And then we'll jump back. I know it's a little setup, but basically what we've done to recap is we've set 3 device groups on the switch. And then we've set a device group 1 of test board on, and then test board 2 on the other bulb and test board 3. So it's kind of like, think of the switch as the master, the control of things. And we're going to make sure this kind of works, but we may have to turn on one option, which I'll show you. So if we turn on the switch 3, you can see nothing happens. We turn on switch 2, nothing happens. Now we turn on switch button 1, it turns on just that one bulb, just like we would expect. So you can see it turns it on and off, but of course, you would think, hey, well, this should work. Well, there's one option you need to turn on. In the documentation for device groups, if you search for set option 88, you'll get this paragraph here. Now, I'm not going to go through it. Of course, you can read it. You probably read it fast and I can talk about it. But we're going to need to turn on set option 88. And that's going to tie the relays to each device group. And then there's a DevGroupTie, which sets which relay each device group is tied to. So you can imagine this is already pretty cool because, like I talked about that fan controller, that it has a fan and a dimmer. Well, I just want the relay 2, which is where the light is at. You tie that to one device group and that would control your lights, and then you could control your fan and it works awesome. Well, with this one, we're going to do the tie and make sure this works. So we've turned on set option 88 and we'll give it a shot once it restarts and see if it works as expected. If not, we'll check the dev group ties. So 1 turns on that bulb, 2 turns on bulb number 2, and then 3 turns on the lamp. Very cool, but what about DevGroupTie? Say you wanted to flip-flop stuff, right? Now you'll notice by default, DevGroupTie 1 says that relay 1 is tied to device group 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So it can get confusing, but it's really just one of those things you just take steps and try as you go, so you don't get yourself confused. I know I've done that before. So if we tie dev group 2 to 3 and dev group 3 to 2, that would flip-flop things. So if you just want to make sure that they are flip-flopped. You can see 1 is 1, 2 is 3, 3 is 2, and 4 is 4. We're not using 4 in this one. And now when we jump back, you should see that when button 2, that turns on the lamp. And then button 3 is going to turn on this other bulb. So pretty cool feature with the DevGroupTie, and it's really, really super powerful what you can do, especially with multi-button devices. Because then you can start to do single presses to turn them on, and then double presses to do other things, and triple or a long press. It's just the power of what you can do with things is pretty amazing. So as you can see, the power of device groups is definitely just freaking awesome. And yeah, again, you can thank PCDM for his awesome, just mastermind work at doing his magic with Tasmota for doing the device groups. Still one of, hands down, my favorite features. Now, if you got some different situation, different idea that you've done that you'd like to share, definitely shoot us a comment down below and come hang out with us in Discord and share some pictures. We like to see all the cool shit. So I appreciate everyone using the links down below, being a Patreon member or YouTube member, whatever it may be, or just hanging out with us and having fun. And definitely press all them buttons, and y'all take care. I did use 3 smart bulbs. Okay. Get your ice. I was on a roll, but I'll let you edit it later. How would I be live? There's no internet. We bogged down Willie would look like a freaking... Right, and the data is burned down because everybody else is doing the same thing. Yeah. Where you going, bro?